So I now would like to give floor to Aliya to guide us through the assessments.
Thank you very much to everyone for sharing your experience. Indeed, today we're going to talk about online assessment. But before we delve into the world of online tools, as a quality manager, I would like to highlight the key points of any types of assessment. No matter whether you're teaching online or offline, it's quite important. Indeed, the real purpose of assessment is not only to measure student performance, but also support student learning progress. Students should be given an opportunity to demonstrate their learning, which may not be possible if the tasks are too simple, and vice versa. I hope you are all familiar with the university assessment strategy, which promotes the following principles. And we encourage you to check if your assessments are clear to students, valid, in other words, assess what you actually taught in the course. Would you get the same results if the tests were taken again and scored by an external examiner? Transparent, reliable, fair and inclusive, appropriate to the level of study, authentic, in other words, assess students' ability to apply knowledge and skills to real-world challenges, let's say, applicable to potential work settings. Well, you may argue that these principles were written for a traditional mode of teaching. Yes, but in online environments, some of these principles become even more critical and important. I would like to bring to your attention that our quality team has developed Nazarbayev University quality indicators for online courses. These are available at our internal web portal. So using these indicators, you may review if your assessments meet the quality standards. And we encourage you to employ a variety of assessment approaches aligned with learning outcomes. Develop clear and descriptive grading rubrics which are shared with students. This is critical as students must know how they will be assessed. Conduct academic integrity checks on submitted assignments and provide timely and constructive feedback using both formative and summative tasks. You may say, well, we know the principles, so where should we start? The traditional assessment cycle consists of 5 steps. What would be your first step? Using the options on the right side, try to place these steps in order from 1 as being the first to 5th as being the last. You have, let's say, 1 minute. And whenever you're ready, note the answer, please raise your hand to share your thoughts on this. Are there any volunteers? And don't be shy. Or use the chat, yes. Thank you, Ayman. Just unmute your microphone if you would like to share your thoughts. So place in order the following steps. What would be your first step? Could you please place in order the steps which are displayed on the screen on the right side? Okay, I can see the answer coming from Alpamis. Could you, Alpamis, unmute yourself? And please introduce yourself. Which school are you representing?
Hi, my name is Alpamis. I'm from School of Medicine. I'm instructor.
Welcome to our training session. So please place in order the steps.
I believe the first one should be the identify the revisit the learning outcomes.
Yes, correct.
And the second one is assess the learning outcomes and maybe collect the evidence. The B answer, I think.
Okay.
Then design the AM, I guess it's activities, yeah, learning materials, which should be aligned with learning outcomes. going to be E. And then D, analyze the results and modify them. And of course, I guess at the end should be the assessment criteria.
Okay. Is everyone agree with the with Alpamis?
I think there might be different options from everyone. So we are looking forward to hearing about the right sequence.
Yes. Okay. Let's check whether your thoughts were right or not. Let's check the right order. So the first one is identifying and revisiting learning outcomes. The second one, designing assessment methods which are aligned with learning outcomes. Then we should think of developing assessment criteria. Then assessing learning outcomes and collecting evidence. And finally, analyzing results and modifying assessments, of course, if needed. Then the cycle will be repeated. So I hope this assessment task was not difficult to you, and this is not the final one. Let's go further. As we have indicated, our first step, and Alpamis was absolutely correct about this, our first step is to define and revisit the learning outcome. Why? Indeed, assessment can be effective only if we clearly state our learning targets. So, how to develop clear and smart learning outcomes? Well, some of you may say, this is an easy task. However, we have some TAs, and we hope this will be useful for them as well to learn how to write smart and specific learning outcomes. Try to answer the question, what I want my students able to do as a result of my course. Define and list knowledge, subject-specific and generic or transferable skills applicable to any course, and personal attributes. Start each statement with an action verb. You may wish to use Anderson and Creswell or Bloom's taxonomy as an example. Use clear language, not very sophisticated, because our students should understand the outcome in order to achieve it. Try to avoid compound and complicated statements. Try not to use more than 2 closely linked verbs in one statement, as it would be quite challenging and difficult to measure both of them. Please benchmark the outcomes against Dublin descriptors. Sometimes you know that accreditation bodies, they offer their own options, so you can use them. And make sure that your learning outcomes are appropriate to the level and year of study. For example, if your course within the graduate program, it would be more appropriate to develop higher order thinking skills, not just comprehension skills. And finally, your learning outcomes should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time limited. What do we mean by achievable? Your students definitely cannot stop global warming, right? And I'm encouraging you to use the specific checklist which was developed to ensure the quality of learning outcomes. Ayman, could you please show us the checklist that we have?
Sure, can you see it now?
Yes, we do. Thank you. So this would be, I think, useful to check and revise your learning outcomes using this criteria. I'm also using a special learning outcomes generator. If you follow the link that we have provided, you may use it. This is an online tool which can be helpful in designing learning outcomes. Let's try to use it. Okay, so let's try to use research skills. Next, we will be using Bloom's taxonomy. Next, let's use which level? Let's say apply. Next, let's use practice. Next, and we can answer that question by saying, for example, conducting experiments, because we can assure that our students will apply certain learning skills, certain skills used in conducting experiments. So now we've got a ready learning outcome. So you're welcome to use this learning outcomes generator, and you can always modify this outcome and enhance it and use it the way you want it to use. Thank you, Ayman. Let's go further. Okay, I'm sure you are all familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy, and it is very helpful for those of you who are struggling in finding appropriate action verbs. Now let's practice and try to identify what's wrong with the outcome and suggest your option. Let's have a look together at the first one. Students will gain an understanding of the scientific theory of evolution. Here, the verb is quite vague. Will gain an understanding. This verb is also non-measurable. You cannot really observe understanding directly, unless you are able to read someone's mind. I'm not sure if you can, but you can observe performance. Let's go back and check the Bloom's taxonomy. And if we look at the Bloom's taxonomy, we can find an active verb for understanding that reflects the direct demonstration of what students know and are able to do. For example, students will explain the scientific theory of evolution. So we can use the Bloom's taxonomy to find an appropriate action verb. And we have two more outcomes. Let's work with the third one. Students will compare and contrast world political systems and analyze the relationships and tensions between different countries. Try to identify what's wrong with this outcome and suggest your option. Who would like to volunteer? Don't be shy. Yes, please use the chat if you wish. Or raise your hand. Bakrit, Aubakira, would you like to volunteer?
We have also.
I see Piotr Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
Piotr, would you like to discuss this outcome? Please unmute yourself.
Maybe, yeah, you could also repeat the question for those who would like to answer it.
Okay, the question actually and the task is on the slide. Identify the problem and try to rewrite the following learning outcome. For example, students will compare and contrast world political systems and analyze the relationships and tensions between different countries. What's wrong with this learning outcome? Before we have discussed the principles of writing learning, smart learning outcomes. And we have discussed one of the principles. Can Ayman, can you go back and to remind back one more slide? Okay, look at these principles one more time, and probably you will find some principles that are not met within this learning outcome. Altin, could you please unmute yourself because we can hear you? Okay, we can see some questions, some right answers from Bakit. Bakit, could you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, from which school you are representing?
Hello, my name is Bahit, and I'm from the School of Engineering and Digital Science. And
Welcome to our session.
Hmm?
Welcome to our session.
Thank you. Hello to everyone. Yeah. So when I look to that sentence, it looks like very difficult to understand what actually does it mean. Like, yeah. So maybe to make it a little bit simple.
Okay. We also see some correct answers from David.
Yeah, so it's a
David,
compound.
David, could you introduce yourself, please? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm David Dreamer from NEGSB. Yeah, so clearly it violates this advice to avoid compound
Yes,
learning.
correct. So you would split this statement into two, right?
Right. So that would be one clear way to improve it.
Yeah, because it would be quite difficult to assess both of them in one statement. Yeah, and we often see this error. Okay, thank you so much. I hope this task was not quite difficult for you. Thank you for sharing your answers.
Okay, sorry, I just would like to be voice of Piotr because he has some technical problems with microphone, but he also has provided a wonderful suggestion. Compare and contrast might be too complicated task for students if they are not able to classify the political systems. Thank you, Piotr.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this. And let's go further. Constructive alignment in assessment is quite important. The model of constructive alignment was first devised by Professor John Biggs. All the course components should be aligned, and assessments, for example, should measure learning outcomes. Teaching methods and course content should support the achievement of learning outcomes. Today we will have a look at alignment of assessment methods with learning outcomes. The measurable and active verb in the learning outcome statement helps us to determine what our assessment methods need to be. Let's look at some examples of aligned assessments. Here you can see the first one. Review the existing literature in the area for research in the discipline. As an example, we can use assessment method, for example, literature review. Another learning outcome, identify the main signs and symptoms of multiple sclerosis. What we can use as an assessment methods? Multiple choice questions. Okay, we can use another one like exam. And now I'm suggesting to come up with some ideas for as an assessment method. Or the third one, what would you use as an assessment method for the third learning outcome? Create end products using selected ingredients. What would be the most appropriate assessment method, or probably several assessment methods, for the third learning outcome? You may write your option in the chart, or you can simply unmute yourself and suggest your option. As a guiding tip, I can suggest that you can answer the question, what does create imply? Which actions or what is the final outcome or the final product of creation could be? What would be the possible learning outcome? Okay, prototype product, group project, correct. Probably research proposal to some extent, yes. Lab work with report, correct. Indeed, all these answers could be valid. Possible answers like lab experiments, report based on this result, presentation of end products, and so on. Thank you so much for your answers. Let's practice one more time. When you design an assessment method, look at the verb used for the learning outcome and the desired final outcome or object of the statement. You may use it as a tip. Here I have 6 learning outcomes. They are listed in the left column, and assessment techniques on the right side. I'm giving you a few seconds, a few minutes, if you wish, to have a look at this. And which one, for example, would you use for the learning outcome number, let's say 5? Which assessment method would you use for the learning outcome number 5, organize structural elements? Okay, we have one, two answers, even with question marks. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Bahut. Maya. Are there any options? Okay, thank you. Indeed, the correct answer is D. To organize and to assess learning outcome for organizing structural elements, we can use design a matrix and table, because here we can see the direct link between organization of structural elements and designing a matrix and table. Yes, you are correct. Thank you so much. There are so many opportunities to assess student learning, but we often simply rely on what? On quizzes and tests. And we encourage you to use a variety of assessments. Why? Well, because it will help you to elicit various skills, knowledge, and attitudes, not only comprehension, but also higher order skills. If we use all the time only exams or tests, we will develop the same set of skills. In the table here, we have provided just an example of which assessment methods will be helpful in measuring certain skills or learning outcomes. It is also important that faculty and students have a shared understanding of what is expected of them. In this regard, assessment criteria and rubrics are critical. Please inform your students how they will be assessed. Communication is crucial. Include these expectations in the course syllabus. You may align not only your assessment, a general assessment with learning outcome, but you also may use specific tasks within assessment and within your assignment. And we may use one assignment to measure several learning outcomes. Let's have a look at the following example from Carnegie Mellon University. Here, the professor is suggesting a set of grading rubrics to assess different set of skills, and assessment will be conducted in a form of digital video project. In the right column, you may see assessment criteria. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assessment criteria. Assessment criteria, this could be any aspect of performance or final product or skill, ability, or any step of assignment. Then we can see performance levels or levels of performance, students' level of mastery within each criteria. For example, beginning, developing, proficient. Quite common, we use poor level of performance, satisfactory, good, or excellent. And we have specific descriptors or description of each dimension. Well, it's true that it's time-consuming exercise, and I do understand it's quite difficult and challenging to write descriptors for each assignment. But by the end of the day, it would be easier for you to assess and collect evidence on the achievement of learning outcomes. It will reduce the time you spend on grading. It will also prevent any complaints about grades coming from students. And grading rubrics will guide you to improve will guide also students to improve their performance. It will guide students on how they can improve their learning experience and Also, what I like about having grading rubrics is that it will guide students in self-assessment. It will guide students in peer assessment. And you don't have to start from scratch. You may use some good resources, like, for example, a RubyStar. Ayman, could you please open the RubyStar link? This online tool developed by the US Department of Education creates a rubric for a number of different disciplines, and you can always modify the generated information and contextualize it. This might be a good start for you. For example, let's use research and writing, and let's use a research report. Ayman, could you click on research report? Research report. Thank you. Scroll down a little bit to create a rubric. Yes, thank you. And choose, for example, in one of the windows, please select the first column. Okay. No, the first one. Please select. Yes, the category. Let's say choose quality of information. And here you can see that this web resource has developed for you special grading rubrics. This might be a good start, right? And this will develop these descriptors, and you can use it anytime and download it and modify it a little bit and contextualize. So I hope you now know how to write learning outcomes. You know the principles of effective assessment methods, and you know how to link assessment methods with learning outcomes. Now, Ayman, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Aliyah. We can just summarize our first part of the workshop, where we have defined the principles of effective assessment methods, covered SMART course learning outcomes, and even practiced designing assessment methods aligned with learning outcomes. You will now be invited to take part in the anonymous polling consisting of 4 questions, followed by the second part of the workshop with some activity. So I'll be just launching poll. So I hope that everyone can see it. So you are now viewing 4 questions. Please feel free to provide your answers. We hope it will be just some useful practice for you. Thank you for being active, and we're still waiting for more answers. If you find some, let's say, questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to follow up with Aliyah or me, just emailing us. If you don't mind, we'll be providing 1 more minute to finish up the questions. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being active. So I'll be ending the poll in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
So the first question was, what does M in Smart Learning Outcomes stand for? And bingo, the correct answer is measurable. Congratulations for those of you who answered correctly. The second question was, which principle of effective assessment was violated if the students were given an assignment on a topic that was not taught in the course? The correct answer is validity. And thank you so much for answering correctly. Please choose the learning outcome which is well designed. And you are absolutely right. This is the third option: critique and assess the strengths and weaknesses of general scientific of models, because the first two are not really measurable. The fourth question, which of the following assessment methods is not aligned with the following learning outcome? Communicate the key research ideas to the general and specific audience. The correct answer is multiple choice test. You are absolutely correct, because other options can be used to convey communication and to assess communication skills. Thank you so much for participating in this workshop and in this poll. And we hope that you understand how to develop smart learning outcomes and how to develop and align assessment methods with aligned assessment methods. Thank you.
Thank you, Aliya. So assessments in education have different aspects. However, when online, you are advised to focus on 2 aspects mainly. It's formative assessment and technology-enhanced assessment. So formative assessment is critical in an online environment, as it provides immediate corrective means to improve the learning experience. Technology-enhanced assessments are flexible in time, they are engaging, inclusive, and these assessments may capture skills not easily assessed by other means through, for example, electronic portfolios, online quizzes, virtual labs, some interactive games, simulations. So listed here on this slide are the main tools available at NU. As you can see, our LMS is Moodle. We have also Google Suite, we have Office 365, Zoom, Turnitin, but the list is much wider, including software and hardware items that can and should be requested from IT help desk. And in examples, we show how self-reflection, self-assessment, peer assessment, and group work can be technologically supported in formative assessment. For example, for self-reflection and self-assessment, you can use discussion board on Moodle. You can also have multiple choice questions through either Google Slides or Google Forms or Moodle. Again, you can hold, for example, in clinical studies, objective structured clinical exams via Zoom, infographics with Canva. For peer assessment, we have on our Google the plugin called Workshop. It's when all the students can upload their work, and then each of them should assess their peers. And if you are interested in this plugin, you can always ask for a training on it. again, emailing to IT help desk and they will walk you through it, or otherwise just email me and I'll connect you with them. For the group work, it's Zoom, for example, for webinar facilitation, but these are just like few examples. So nowadays, lots of multimedia tools and software can be free, especially when you opt for an educational account. The list is constantly updated on our ILH web portal, but today, I would like to highlight 3 tools that might help you in your assignment creation or redesigning of your assignments. And all 3 are free and have great features. And I will walk you through those tools, presenting ways of its usage in terms of assignment types from both perspectives, student and faculty. So number 1 is Flipgrid, and it's a video discussion experience. As an educator, you just establish a platform and you ask your students to collaborate and contribute to it. So students can use Flipgrid for individual assignments presentation, for first day of class check-in, for homework presentation, or just for reflective journaling. Faculty can create a topic, for example, or a new concept description in form of short video there, literature reviews as well. For example, asking students to provide their slides, like explaining in 1 or 2 minutes their literature reviews, if possible, of course. Then online discussions, because each one can comment in form of videos, and also support other class projects. All information is on the website that you can see here, flipgrid.com. It also will be shared with you after the workshop. The number 2 instrument tool is Adobe Spark, and it's also free. It's a multimedia resource. Students can use it for their video infographics creation, for poster presentation. They can also narrate their slides to present some work. For example, maybe they have a literature review completed, or they have solved some problems and now they can explain how they did that. Also use it for blogging, while faculty can also again present new material, narrating the slides and converting those into a video on Adobe Spark. For example, some teachers used to use Adobe Spark as a beautiful material presenter, and they can redesign their syllabus to look more entertaining, let's say. And also it can serve as a motivating instrument. If you in your classes normally can let's say award some best students, so you can create a certificate there in Adobe Spark and share it with your students as well. And the number 3 tool is Loom, which is a lecture capture and video management. Again, faculty can use Loom to present new material. I have used it for, let's say, recording like 15 minutes video, but I think it can even last more. But again, it helps to support you in chunking materials, because as you know, in an online environment, it's difficult to pay attention during a long period of time. So that's why we also in our workshop tried to use some interactivities in order to, to keep all of us warm. Then you can also use Loom to provide instructions on specific tasks. For example, it will also support your social presence while students can see you explaining something. And also as a welcoming message to all the class, and so on. So students also can use it for their individual presentations. For example, if they work as an individual or as a group, they can create their presentations, reports using this tool. So general principles in creating effective online assessments are as following. Each assignment should be linked to the course learning outcome. Here I just stress again in supporting Aliya's part. So secondly, large or high stakes assignments should be broken into multiple low stakes assignments. This is very important for students to not be missed out. For example, when they are stressed with this new environment, but while you provide them many assignments that weigh, for example, 10 or 12% of the course, they'll not be so stressful about not completing them. And after all, they'll come up with your scaffolding. They'll be becoming better and better in performing. So the number 3 is the purpose, audience, and type for each assignment that should be identified and made available. Try to link directly to assignment readings, for example, if and whenever possible. Provide supporting structures such as templates, guidelines for library research. You even can constantly, let's say, liaise your students with our librarians. So the number 4 is grading guidelines for the assignment in the form, for example, of rubrics and examples of acceptable and unacceptable work. You could provide even responses from previous students, of course, with their permission, to share the work. The number 6 is assignments that deter plagiarism should be prioritized. And, you know, we have this tool, Turnitin, to help somehow. And also we have Gradescope, again, by Turnitin for STEM disciplines. So please, if you need some guidance or something like that, just let us know. And also so that you know, we are going to arrange Turnitin workshops, and the number of participants unfortunately is limited, but the link with the recordings will be sent out to everyone. So the success of student responses to an assignment often rests on the instructor's deliberate design of the assignment. By being purposeful from the beginning, you can ensure that your assignments will not only serve as effective assessment methods, but also engage your students. So in this workshop, we will focus on designing an online discussion as an activity. So please look at the activity planning sheet. I'll be sharing it with you just in a moment. But why we've chosen the online discussion? It's because discussion is not a single activity. It includes critique, debate, debrief, brainstorm, share. So we think that it will be useful to you to practice on designing online discussion activities. So you now have in your chat the activity planning sheet. Please download it. Okay, so, but before we actually start practicing, I'd like to guide you through some key points. It's about activity design process. Consists of 4 steps. The first one is our mantra. It's identify course learning outcomes. The second one is determine activity parameters that are specific to each discipline. Like, for example, whether you're going to present just to give assignment individually, or you want to provide it to small group of people, to large classes, you want it in a synchronous or asynchronous way, what platform you're going to use. The number 3 is design activity elements. We'll be covering those just in a few seconds. And the number 4 is developing activity materials. So step number 3, which is design activity elements, and it is also covered in your activity planning sheets, is really important because it has like key elements that help really design the activity. So number 1 is directions. Directions that you provide to students on the assignment. So they should include a clear, detailed description of what to do. They usually outline all parts of task, and often has information about timing, for example, may include some examples. The next one is partners, and this is information about who to work with and how to work with them. Also some let's say key items about collaboration, cooperation also are very important. Number 3, the third element is time. It can be either calendar time or just like placing the time limit when activity should start, when it should be completed. So how many work sessions are needed, for example. Even some instructors put the rhyme also in this. So the next one is facilitation. It's again, in online, it's the guidance, the facilitation is very important, and you can choose either to facilitate discussions yourself, or assigning students to do that, or actually like no one. So it depends on the activity. The outcomes also is the element of design activity, and it's just like an outcome. So what you expect to see will be like product, reflection, process. The feedback could be none, and you will also explain it in your directions. Feedback, you can just provide it individually. For large classes, it might be overwhelming to provide individual feedback. So try to group the comments and just explain to students, like, or posting a video message or just a post directing to everyone. So feedback also needs a rubric, again, to be explicit, to be able to assess. So before we actually put you into breakout rooms, just few more words. This is an activity part, okay? So we're going to design online discussion. So actually you'll be designing online discussion for your class, but we'll be here to support. And you can see the directions for this activity. Number one, you need to choose a learning outcome for your class. Sketch out a discussion activity to address that learning outcome. Just decide that there'll be a discussion activity. Then choose for yourself whether it be synchronous or asynchronous, because this way it will direct you about the platform you'll be using, or just medium activity. Then consider the elements that we've just discussed, directions, partners, if any, time, facilitation, outcomes, feedback. Use the activity planning sheet to guide your process. That is again in the chat. And work together in a breakout room. We'll be directing you to the breakout rooms. So, and you'll have like 15 minutes, maybe a little bit less. But anyway, whenever you have questions, let's try it this way. I mean, you need to consult each other, maybe just speaking about your learning outcomes and what activity you want to create. And I see people leaving. Is it frightening to be in a breakout room? But anyway, so for those of you who are still here with us and is ready to practice a little bit more before we close our session, so please wait for the invitations to breakout rooms. By the way, if you have questions right now related to Aliya's part or to this, for example, activity, please let us know using the chat or just unmuting yourself and speaking. Marisa, hi, we hope that everything is fine. So thank you for joining the session. If you would like to take part in a breakout room activity, please do so. Also, whom we have? Altin. Altin, you could also join. Gujamila.
Welcome back.
We're down to 7.
Yes. But the most.
Survive. Who survived?
Okay. So how was it? How was your experience? Would you like to share? Maybe provide some feedback?
Was it frightening to stay to stay alone?
Not alone. We were not alone.
No, and Bucket was really good. So she had some really good suggestions. So it worked well. I learned some things. Yeah.
Good.
That's
yeah.
Okay. So actually, this is the questions and answer session. I think we have covered the topics that we wanted to cover, and apologies if it's not what you have been expecting for, but this is our, let's say, first workshop on creating assessments, and we try to not to be very detailed and overwhelming you with the details about assessment, but I wanted to provide you some ideas and so that you could later come to us and follow up on it.
Well, if I can say, Ayman and Aliyah, it's been fantastic. So thank you very much. I've learned a lot, and you've given us a lot of ideas and a lot of tools that we can explore. So I think it really is great. So thanks a lot for all the effort that you put into it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Would you like to have some more activity, just like to practice polling on Zoom?
Oh, okay.
I can arrange some polling, just short one, and then if you, if it's just very, very easy. Okay. Sorry, it's just like so. Okay, this is very easy question. So is I'm presenting Innovative Learning Hub. For me, it's very important that you, let's say, get acquainted with the tools and interesting platforms. So here's the question. Which of the tools can be used by teachers to narrate slides, create infographics, and design certificates toward the best students? And we have split answer. One provided the Adobe Spark, and another person said it's Flipgrid. So the right answer is Adobe Spark. So the polling was anonymous. So those who were, that person who provided the right answer, thank you. And just
gets A+.
Okay. So please let us know whether you have some questions or maybe something was unclear and you would like to have it now, the answer. Otherwise, we'll be closing up this session. Right, Aliyah?
I also think it would be useful to demonstrate which resources we have,
Mhm.
so they can use it meanwhile.
Okay. So here is the list of resources that's at NU, like produced by our team. And these resources you can find on the web portal.
Yes, and also you can click when you receive this presentation, you can click and on these hyperlinks and follow. And you can download these documents like guidelines on online assessment, a new assessment strategy to which we referred to at the beginning of the session, quality indicators, assessment of learning outcomes. We have developed special toolkit, which I hope you find useful, on assessment of learning outcomes, development of learning outcomes. You can use a template which was developed by our team for course specification, form kind of syllabus, and student code of conduct and disciplinary procedures would be helpful on academic integrity checks.
And also there are some more resources about, let's say, technology enhanced assessment. So you may find it here on the last slide of our presentation. And again, if you have questions or some follow-up issues, just contact us, and that's all.
Yes, you can email to us anytime at academicquality@nu.edu.kz. It's not only about assessment. If you have any issues with how to design your course or how to write learning outcome or assessment, if you would like to know more about annual program monitoring, APM process, or student engagement or course evaluation service, you are more than welcome to email and answer these questions. I would be happy to help.
Ask like, please, can I ask one question? I mean, I don't know if you have authority about it. So I heard like there is a proctor system which helps to control exams when like students doing. Does our university has this proctor, and or will they have it?
Okay, so thank you for a great question. We have had some, let's say, discussions about having proctoring tool, but you know, it's difficult to, you know, we just try to say that there are several major drawbacks of any proctored system. First of all, it's very stressful for students, and as well it can be stressful for instructors, but also proctor can generate false red flags and putting additional stress onto students. It also requires substantial planning from both sides, students and faculty. It has data concerns, students' privacy issues, but also it's actually relatively easy to circumvent. So what we would like to, there are tools that have AI, let's say, the support, but again, it's very expensive, and as you know, big universities, they try the practice that each student pays on him or herself for to be proctored on those examinations. So what Nazarbayev University suggests is to again consider alternatives to traditional assessments, like having, instead of high stakes assessment, have more low stakes assessment, formative quizzes, to provide opportunity for students to like with a variety of assignments, not putting too much weight on final examination in whichever form it might be. Also, there are like a lot of opportunities to redefine your assessments, redesign it, but anyway, we have some suggestion. Like we have a free two free tools. First one is Safe Exam Browser, which is integrated with our Moodle system, Moodle LMS. And if you want to use it for your exam, please ask for training in advance with an IT personnel, just emailing to them that IT help desk, I would like to know more about Safe Exam Browser. Another option is LearnKappa, which is being used in CPS. It's also a proctoring tool, but it allows, a Safe Exam Browser just blocks all other windows except the window which is for exam. LearnKappa is kind of a platform where you can create assignments. It's normally used for physics. So if you also want to try the LearnKappa again, you can email me actually on LearnKappa, because I'm now establishing those contacts with CPS instructors to gain more inside information about it. And the third option would be using our Zoom and counting on help on your TAs, because you can vigilate. You can again make them like in a small group, asking to turn on their cameras and try to vigilate it this way. But again, the assessment itself, the assignment, should not be easy to Google. It's useful to have your questions. Okay, one part can be Googled, it's okay, but the second part should be something about the relevancy, applicability, some things that they are not able to find online, like on internet or from other devices. So that's the main point from our side. Just redefine your assignments.
Yes, we would encourage you to reconsider your current assessment methods in order to prevent any kind of academic integrity violations, and use a variety of assessment approaches. It would definitely be helpful in preventing any kind of violations.
And again, just like one summarizing point for proctoring, it's not a surveillance problem, it's teaching problem, they say, because, it's difficult, even with the proctoring system, there is a chance to, to cheat.
Find the rule.
We were all students and we know how to do that. Okay, any other questions?
Could I ask a question, Ayman?
Sure.
I'm just wondering, how do students react to different tools, like a broader range of tools? So you mentioned tools like Loom, for example. Do students appreciate the opportunity to use different tools, or do they prefer one or two things so they don't have to really worry about it?
Sorry for asking. Oh, thank you for asking. Unfortunately, I do not, let's say, see the student reactions or gather student feedback, as my main target audience is faculty. But anyway, nowadays, not only in Kazakhstan, I think it's the main issue is internet connectivity. So if you think that the majority of your students are not able to download some new programs, for example, to use, then it's better to focus on one, two simple tools that they have already. It's like Moodle, for example. Even if you don't have Zoom, which you can actually request from IT Help Desk, but you can use Big Blue Button, which is also a web conferencing tool on Moodle. And also just try to keep it simple. That's the main advice.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayman.
Thank you, Tim. Maya, Marisa, would you like to share with us? Or
thank you very much for the workshop. Yeah, it was very useful. I have attended other workshop by the Higher Education Academy on aligning assessments with learning outcomes. So this is nice to do it with a view of the online teaching environment. So it was very useful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one suggestion to Bakit regarding minimizing cheating during exams, so as to minimize, so that you don't need to use these expensive proctoring tools, which cost like, I think, a couple of euros per student to procure. So you can create a question bank on Moodle, and as long as that question bank is big enough, you can randomize questions that are assigned to students. So I already had a few quizzes with my students, and believe it or not, there is some cheating. I cannot say that students were sitting together in the same room. They could have possibly solved the problems together, but the score says that the average grade is not alarming. I would have expected, if there is a lot of cheating, that to be very high. The only problem is that it requires you to create a lot of questions. So I would say that you have at least minimum 10 questions per in a bank per one random question that will be assigned per category. So in Moodle, you can, in the question bank, you can tag different questions with different issue area, and then you can really administer a quiz or an exam that pulls out from a large pool of questions, and they belong to the same category. And this should minimize the at least some kind of cheating that is just screenshot shared on Telegram right away. So
yeah, thank you. And also, just to add, time limit will also help with the randomizing. When you provide this limit, they will not be able to, you know, communicate with each other. Yes,
that's true. So you can limit the time, and you still need to give them enough time, because what if they have technical issue now with the connection? So you cannot really restrict it that much, but you can still do it within the assigned class time. So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for helping and the young instructors.
We might actually ask our also IT managers to provide some training on Moodle, although there are a lot of guides on the Moodle page itself. But please let me know if there is like a great demand, then I will definitely try to arrange some, let's say, my idea was also to invite Gani to explain how to use, let's say, Moodle assignment tools, features and everything. So I think that it would be great to have it as soon as possible. So you'll be receiving an announcement from ILH soon. Okay. Sure. Yeah, this is our everything now. Moodle is our everything, and I'm glad that our IT team has been working on expanding its a server backup, so it should work better now. And I would also like to invite our faculty champions, like Maya, for example, who has such a great experience in creating question banks, so that Maya could share with everyone of your success story. Let's call it this way. So first part would be Moodle itself, like training on it, and then 2 or 3 contributions from our great faculty members. So again, thank you very much for, let's say, dedicating your Friday evening to such an important topic, and we are very grateful to all of you.
Thank you so much for joining us, because today the weather is tempting and everyone wants to go out to enjoy the sun. And thank you for being with us in this lovely Friday evening.
Okay, we'll be sending out the material